All right, in your first real assignment, we're going to talk about a word that I think is arguably the most important word you could actually come to understand during your entire educational experience, from kindergarten to being a senior and onwards and upwards, if that's where you head. No matter what, this one word is a word you want to fully understand and be able to apply to your everyday existence. And this word is popularly known as grit. That's the word that a lot of people are using right now to describe kind of this technical term that is also known as the growth mindset. That's another way people describe it. So grit, the growth mindset, these are the same things. And in this class, everything that we do in this class, yeah, it's language arts for sure, and we're definitely doing a ton of reading and writing, but it's all based around this idea of learning to have grit and developing a growth mindset. So what does that mean? Well, let's think about this. What can you really learn in school? Right? I mean, we learn tons of stuff. I know I went through school. I learned tons and tons of stuff. Right? One time I had a test, right, to label every bone in the human body, and that's cool. But I don't know what every bone in the human body is. I didn't know then. I bombed that test, and now I still don't know what every bone in the human body is. And if I was a doctor who did surgery on all sorts of different bones in the human body, I definitely probably want to have those things down. But really, all this information gets thrown at us in school, and we think about what can we really learn? Especially considering this, when you guys get out of school, 60% of all the jobs that are going to be out there and available, we don't even know what those are right now, because the stuff you're going to be doing hasn't even been invented. If you think, I don't know, right now I'm using this program called PowerPoint. 20 years ago, if you told somebody that hey, you know what you're going to do for a living? You're going to design new animations for PowerPoint. People are like, what's PowerPoint? That doesn't even exist. When people do presentations, they write things on paper or chalkboards and they show them to other people in the same place at the same time. And then to think about now, well, that stuff hadn't even been invented yet. That's going to happen by the time you guys are out of school. New stuff we don't even know about is going to be invented. So I could try to teach you a ton of very specific stuff, and don't worry, I'm going to teach you a bunch of stuff. And in our class, we're definitely going to work on things that hopefully are a little more consistent and would last with you, like how to read and how to write, which over the course of, thousands of years of human history, those things haven't really gone away. But if we think about what else, what do you really learn in school? Well, I think what you really need to learn is grit. I think that is the single most important thing you can learn in school. Grit is kind of the same thing as being tough and being resilient and not giving up and knowing for sure in your own head that you're going to figure it out and you're going to get it done. That's what grit is. Grit is learning confidence in yourself, not confidence that you already know something, not confidence that you already know everything, but confidence that you can figure it out, that you're just gonna figure it out. And that the amount of time it takes might be different from person to person. It might be different from depending on what you're trying to learn. And how hard you have to work might be different from person to person, and it might be different from what you're trying to learn. But overall, you're gonna figure it out. It's just gonna happen. If you can get your brain to accept that idea, if you can make that a habit in your thinking, you have developed grit. And as soon as you have that habit of thinking, you have learned the most important thing you will ever learn in any school ever. Absolutely. So when you think about this word grit, a lot of people try to make cute pictures out of it and stuff. I thought this was pretty great. When I saw this, if we think G-R-I-T, what is grit? Grit means up front, you give it your all. You try your absolute hardest. And then when you try your absolute hardest, if it doesn't work out the first time, which it won't in this class a whole lot, that's good. You redo if necessary. Actually, research on learning shows us that the best way to learn something is not to do it right the first time. It's also not to screw it up and then forget about it forever. The way you learn the most efficiently, to make it really stick with you, is that you try something super hard, and then you screw it up, and then you fix it. That's how you learn something. So give it your all, and then if necessary, you redo something. And as you're doing that, you ignore that idea in your head that says, I'll just give up or I'll just quit. You learn to absolutely ignore that. And that's something you got to teach yourself and you got to practice how to do. All of us are prone to listening to that voice in our head that says, just give up, just do something else. You just got to ignore that, and it's a learned thing. You train yourself. I ignore that voice in my head that says give up. And overall, you take your time to do it right, because grit involves time. Because for all these things you're going to learn in school, the amount of time you spend trying to figure something out, that's going to be what's different person to person. How easy something is, that's going to be what's different person to person. But overall, if you develop grit, everybody can learn everything you need to learn in school if you develop grit. And when we think about grit, or we talk about grit, you might also hear this term growth mindset. Well, what is that? Growth, I know what growth is, it means growing. And then mindset, well, it's like how you set your mind, or the set that your mind is in, like how your mind is set up. So if you can kind of set your mind up to think like this, you know that your brain will grow. Your brain is a muscle, just like muscles. And while some of us start out like not humongous muscles, we can all work out and make our muscles grow. Your brain does the exact same thing. If you work out your brain by thinking, by working hard, by practicing these ideas of grit, giving it all, redoing if necessary, this is exercise for your brain. And if you exercise your brain will grow. And as your brain grows, you learn to develop the habit where you just know that your brain's going to grow. That you sit down to do a task and you're like, man, this task is really hard. And whereas someone without grit would look at that and say, oh, I can't do it. Or say, I'm just going to kind of do a crappy job and just like hope I get a C on it and like never look at it again. That someone with grit says, you know what? I might not have any idea to do this, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try my absolute hardest. And I know up front I'm probably not going to do it right the first time. A person with grit knows almost for sure the first time they do something hard, they're probably not going to do it right the first time, and they're totally cool with it. Because they also know they're going to figure it out. They're going to try whatever they try, and then they're going to learn from their mistakes. They're going to learn from their teacher. They're going to learn from maybe their friend. They're going to learn from themselves. What do I need to do to fix that and do it right? That's what someone with grit does. So when you look at our class, you have an assignment like this. What is grit? And when you're looking at an assignment in this class, it tells you what you need to do. On September 14th, that's the due date, you want to get it done by, 1 point, it's worth 1 point, you need to score at least 1. Well, that means 100%. In this class, you go click this assignment, which is what you're doing right now, and when you go to do it, and if you submit the assignment, if it comes into me and it's not quite right, it's going to come back to you. I'm not going to give you the option to not learn it. And you shouldn't give yourself the option either. Because what you're doing as you submit these assignments, and especially if you get them back, and you redo them, and you turn them in, which is what you have to do in this class, is you're learning to have grit. You're learning to develop that habit of mind that walks into the room or looks at an assignment and knows for sure you're gonna do it. You just are gonna do it because you developed grit. And you've got it figured out that this is something I'm gonna accomplish no matter what. Doesn't matter if it takes me 10 times to turn it in. Doesn't matter if it takes me 1 time, 2 times. I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna get it right. That's what grit is. So to complete this assignment, I just want you to answer this question. What does it mean to have grit? And how are you going to use grit in this class? All right, I'm sorry for the long video on this one. Get to it.